The words hit me like a slap from a hand I'd trusted my whole life. We were sitting at the old oak table in the dining room, the one scarred from decades of family meals, the air thick with the scent of Mom's overcooked pot roast and the faint metallic tang of cheap red wine. Dad's face, weathered and creased like cracked leather, split into a grin as he leaned back in his chair, his belly straining against his faded flannel shirt. "Your sister earned everything on her own, unlike you," he said, the laughter bubbling up from his chest like poison gas. My fork clattered against the plate, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. Sarah, my perfect older sister, sat across from me, her manicured nails tapping idly on her wine glass, a smug little smile playing on her lips. She didn't even bother to deny it. And in that moment the fury ignited, a white-hot blaze that seared through my veins, making my hands tremble. I wanted to scream, to flip the table, to shatter every illusion they'd built around her. Instead, I swallowed the bile rising in my throat and met Dad's eyes. "Is that so?" I replied, my voice steady but laced with ice. "Well, maybe it's time I earned something too." The drive home that night was a blur of rain-slicked streets and honking horns, the city lights smearing across the windshield like accusatory streaks. My apartment loomed ahead, a cramped two-bedroom in a run-down building on the edge of downtown, the kind of place where the walls thrummed with neighbors' arguments and the elevator always smelled like stale cigarettes. I slammed the door behind me, the lock clicking with finality, and sank onto the sagging couch. The words replayed in my head, a vicious loop. "Earned everything on her own, unlike you." Humiliation burned in my chest, twisting into resentment. How dare he? After all the years I'd busted my ass, working 2 jobs through college, scraping by on ramen and student loans, while Sarah glided through life on a silver platter handed to her by our parents. But it wasn't just favoritism. It was betrayal, pure and simple. I'd always suspected, but now, with Dad's casual dismissal, it crystallized into something sharper, more dangerous. I paced the room, my footsteps muffled by the threadbare carpet, the shadows from the single lamp dancing like mocking specters on the walls. Memories flooded in, unbidden and bitter. Sarah, 5 years my senior, had always been the golden child. Straight A's without studying, prom queen, scholarships pouring in like rain. Me. I was the afterthought, the surprise baby who arrived when Mom and Dad were already worn thin from raising her. But it wasn't until last year that the cracks showed. We'd gathered for Mom's funeral. Cancer had taken her fast, a thief in the night, and that's when the will was read. Everything to Sarah. The house, the savings, even Mom's antique jewelry collection that I'd helped her catalog as a kid. Dad had nodded along, his eyes misty, saying it was what Mom wanted. "Sarah's responsible," he'd murmured. "She'll take care of things." But I knew better. I'd seen the way Sarah hovered over Mom in those final weeks, whispering in her ear, her voice a silky thread weaving doubt about me. "Alex is too unstable," she'd say, loud enough for me to overhear. "Always jumping from job to job. Lies all of it." I'd held down my marketing gig for 3 years, but Sarah? She'd earned her real estate empire by schmoozing clients at Dad's old firm, cutting corners, maybe even bending laws. And now, with Mom gone, Dad was her puppet, laughing at me like I was the joke. Anger gave way to heartbreak as I collapsed onto the bed, the springs creaking under my weight. Why did it hurt so much? Part of me still craved his approval, that rare pat on the back when I was a kid fixing the leaky faucet or acing a test. But resentment festered, a dark seed taking root. I imagined confronting her, storming into her pristine office, papers flying as I exposed her secrets. What secrets? I didn't know yet, but they had to exist. No one climbed that fast without stepping on bodies. Obsession crept in, whispering possibilities. I'd dig, I'd find dirt, and I'd make them pay. But doubt nipped at the edges. Was I really capable of that? Revenge sounded romantic in movies, but in the dim light of my room, it felt like a cliff I was teetering on, the drop endless and terrifying. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the grimy blinds, stabbing at my eyes like accusations. I called in sick to work, My boss's sigh over the phone, a familiar disappointment, and brewed coffee that tasted like ash. Sitting at my cluttered desk, laptop humming to life, I started small. A Google search on Sarah's company. Sterling Realty. Glowing reviews, sure, but buried in the forums were whispers. Anonymous posts about shady deals, clients feeling pressured, rumors of kickbacks. Nothing concrete, but enough to fuel the fire. I jotted notes on a crumpled napkin, my handwriting jagged with suppressed rage. Check public records. Tax filings. The kitchen clock ticked relentlessly, each second a reminder of time slipping away. By noon I'd hacked together a plan. Not literal hacking, just public databases. County clerk's office online portal. There it was. Property transfers, liens, all tied to Sarah's name. One caught my eye. A luxury condo flipped for double the market value in under a month. Suspicious but legal. I needed more. Guilt flickered as I dressed for the day, pulling on a rumpled shirt and jeans. What if I was wrong? What if Sarah really had earned it, and I was just the jealous sibling? But no, the memory of Dad's laughter quashed it. I drove to the library, the air inside cool and musty, shelves groaning under forgotten tomes. The microfiche reader whirred as I scanned old newspapers, my heart pounding with each click. There, an article from 5 years back. Sarah's firm implicated in a zoning scandal, but charges dropped. Insufficient evidence, it said. My breath caught. Dad's old law partner had represented her. Coincidence? Hardly. Layers peeled back, revealing the rot beneath. Sarah hadn't earned a damn thing. She'd manipulated, lied, stolen opportunities that should have been mine. That evening I met my best friend, Jamie, at our usual dive bar. The place reeked of spilled beer and fried onions, neon signs buzzing overhead like angry bees. Jamie slid into the booth, his tattooed arms folding as he eyed me. "You look like hell, Alex. What's up?" I hesitated, the words sticking like thorns. "Family stuff. Dad basically called me a loser compared to Sarah." Jamie winced, sipping his pint. "Ouch. But you know that's bullshit. Sarah's always been slick." "Slick?" I leaned in, voice low. "Try criminal. I think she's been rigging deals." His eyes widened. "Whoa, slow down. You sure?" "Not yet. But I'm going to find out." Dialogue flowed, natural but tense. Jamie's concern clashing with my resolve. "Revenge ain't worth it, man. It'll eat you up." But his words only hardened my obsession. As we parted, rain pattering on the sidewalk, I felt the first stirrings of cold resolve. This wasn't just anger. It was a mission. Days blurred into a haze of research and feigned normalcy. At work, I smiled through meetings, my mind elsewhere, plotting emails to anonymous tip lines, imagining Sarah's face crumpling as her empire cracked. Inner conflict raged. Fantasies of her begging for forgiveness warred with fear of consequences. What if Dad disowned me entirely? Moral grayness settled in. Was I becoming the monster I accused her of being? But humiliation replayed, fueling me. Subtle hints emerged, a cryptic text to Sarah. "We need to talk about Mom's will." Her reply. "Not now, Alex. Busy." Dismissive as always. Tension built slowly, like a storm gathering on the horizon. I tailed her one afternoon, heart hammering as I followed her sleek BMW through traffic, the exhaust fumes choking the air. She met a man at a coffee shop. Sharp suit, furtive glances. Bribes. Fares. My camera clicked from afar, photos grainy but damning. Doubt crept. Was this paranoia? But no, the pieces fit. Back home I pored over them, the apartment's silence oppressive, broken only by the distant wail of sirens. One night, unable to sleep, sheets tangled around me like restraints, I confronted the mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes hollow, jaw set. "You're doing this," I whispered. Planning intensified. Forge alliances with her rivals, leak info to the press. Fear mingled with excitement, a toxic brew. Guilt over Dad surfaced. He was old, frail since Mom's death. But his betrayal stung deepest. Why protect her lies? The breaking point came at a family lunch 2 weeks later. Dad's house, the one now Sarah's on paper, smelled of fresh paint and entitlement. She arrived late, heels clicking on hardwood, her designer bag slung over her shoulder. "Sorry, closing a big deal," she said breezily. Dad beamed. "That's my girl." I forced a smile, but inside rage simmered. Conversation danced around edges, work, weather, until I couldn't hold it. "Sarah, how'd you snag that condo flip last year?" Seemed quick. Her eyes narrowed, fork pausing mid-air. "Hard work, Alex. You should try it." Dad chuckled. Now. No need for that." But the tension crackled, unspoken accusations hanging like smoke. As I left, Sarah pulled me aside in the hallway, her grip on my arm like a vice. "What are you playing at?" she hissed, breath hot on my face. "Nothing," I lied, meeting her gaze. "Just curious how you earned it all." Her face paled, a flicker of fear. Gotcha. Suspense mounted. I had her rattled. Back in my car, hands shaking on the wheel, I knew there was no turning back. The pursuit of revenge had begun, quiet and strategic, but inexorable. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in calculated patience, each day a thread woven into a noose. I worked from the shadows of my apartment, the glow of my laptop screen casting eerie blue hues on the walls, illuminating stacks of printed documents like evidence in a courtroom drama. The air grew stale, heavy with the scent of takeout containers and unwashed coffee mugs, but I barely noticed. Obsession had taken the wheel, steering me through nights of fitful sleep where dreams blurred with reality. Sarah's smug smile morphing into pleas for mercy, Dad's laughter echoing like thunder. Inner turmoil churned. Was this justice or vengeance? The line blurred, but resentment pushed me forward, a relentless tide. I started with the man from the coffee shop. A reverse image search on my photos led to his LinkedIn. Victor Hale, city councilor with a history of ethics probes. Public records showed donations from Sarah's firm. Cozy, but not illegal. Digging deeper, I found emails leaked in a data breach years ago, buried on a dark web forum I'd accessed through a VPN. There, correspondence between Victor and Sarah, veiled references to favorable zoning in exchange for consulting fees. Bribery plain as day. My heart raced as I saved the files. The keyboard clicks like gunfire in the quiet room. Doubt assailed me. What if I got caught? Prison. But humiliation's scar burned fresh. No, they'd pay. Subtle moves first. An anonymous tip to a local journalist, Emily Reyes, whose byline I'd seen on corruption exposés. I met her in a park, hood up against the chill wind rustling autumn leaves, my voice disguised with a burner phone app. "Check these," I said, sliding a USB drive across the bench. She nodded, eyes sharp. "Why me?" "Because you're not afraid of the truth." As I walked away, leaves crunching underfoot, fear knotted my gut. Moral conflict raged. Sarah was family, blood. But betrayal severed that tie. Fantasies shifted. Not violence but ruin. Her reputation shattered. Dad's illusions crumbling. Tension escalated when Sarah called. Her voice, usually polished, cracked. "Alex, we need to meet. Alone." The cafe was dimly lit, steam from espresso machines fogging the windows, the murmur of patrons a distant hum. She sat rigidly, her perfect hair slightly disheveled, a crack in the facade. "What do you want?" she demanded, skipping pleasantries. I sipped my coffee, the bitterness mirroring my mood. "The truth. About Mom's will. About everything." She leaned forward, eyes pleading now. "It wasn't like that. Mom was sick, confused. I just guided her." "Guided? You mean manipulated?" My voice rose, drawing glances. Suppressed rage bubbled. "Keep it down," she hissed. "Dad doesn't know." "Know what?" "That you forged her signature. Pushed me out." Her silence was damning. Dialogue revealed layers. Her motivation, fear of poverty after a bad investment, desperation to maintain the image. I did it for the family, she claimed, but her eyes betrayed guilt. I left with a recording on my phone, hidden in my pocket. Cold resolve solidified. But guilt over Dad lingered. He'd suffered enough losing Mom. Yet his favoritism enabled her. The story broke a week later. Front page. Local realtor implicated in bribery scheme. Emily's article cited anonymous sources, emails redacted but incriminating. I watched from my window as news vans swarmed Sarah's office, the chaos unfolding like a film. Reporters shouting, her ducking into her car, face ashen. Satisfaction surged, mixed with heartbreak. Calls from Dad flooded my phone. "What have you done?" His voice broke, aged beyond his years. Confrontation loomed. I drove to the house that night, rain hammering the roof like judgment. Dad opened the door, his frame stooped, eyes red-rimmed. "Alex!" Inside, the living room felt smaller, cluttered with Mom's ghosts. Her knitting basket, faded photos. Sarah was there, pacing, her makeup streaked. "You bastard," she spat. "Me. You're the thief." Dialogue erupted, raw and revealing. Dad confessed. He'd known about the will, helped cover the zoning deals. "I thought it was best. You were always so angry." Betrayal deepened. Not just Sarah but him. Heartbreak peaked. "You chose her over me. Always." Suspense crested as I revealed the recording. "This goes public unless you make it right." Sarah lunged, grabbing my phone, but I held firm. Struggle ensued. Furniture scraping, shouts echoing. In the chaos, Dad clutched his chest, collapsing. Panic froze us. "Call 911. He yelled. Hospital lights buzzed harshly, the sterile smell of antiseptic choking the air. Dad in ICU, heart attack from stress. Guilt crashed like waves. My revenge caused this. Hours blurred, pacing corridors, coffee vending machine whirring. Sarah sat opposite, our eyes meeting in shared horror. He stabilized, but the twist came in his whispered confession. "The will. It was my idea. To protect Sarah. She was pregnant, lost the baby. Didn't want you burdened." Layers unveiled, her perfection masked pain. A miscarriage from a toxic relationship, hidden shame. Dad's favoritism stemmed from pity, not preference. My resentment. Misplaced, born of ignorance. Revenge's payoff was bittersweet. I destroyed her career, but at what cost? Poetic justice twisted. Sarah faced charges, but I withdrew the recording, settling for restitution. Half the estate. Dad recovered slowly, our bond mending in fragile threads. In the end, as I stood by his bedside, hand in his, cold resolve thawed to regret. "I'm sorry," I murmured. He squeezed back. "We all are." But the scar remained, a reminder that betrayal cuts both ways, and revenge, once unleashed, devours indiscriminately.